What's up everybody and welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be breaking down the lighting used in this interview setup right here. Believe it or not, this entire setup is actually only using one light, and then obviously the practical light in the background with the lamp, but this is only using one main light. So the first thing that you'll notice is whenever I approach this scene, the first thing I wanted to do was to find the L of the room. So if you can find the corner of the room and shoot in that direction, then that will give you the most depth in your image, resulting in a much more captivating image that you have. So I found the L of the room and I set up my interview subject so that way I can shoot into the L of the room. The second thing that I looked for is where is the natural light coming from in the room. So whenever I looked at my living room, I said, where would light be coming from naturally? And I have this big window that's in my living room, and there's the source of my lighting. That's where I am going to use to make it look like that's where the light's actually coming from. I wanted to make sure that my lighting setup was set up to the side from where the window was. Now, no one, that light isn't going to actually come from that window, but the viewers, they don't really connect the dots there that this light isn't actually coming from the window. It just happens naturally that they see that there's a light in the image. That must be where the light's coming from. So you always want to look and find out where's the natural light coming from and what can I use to make it look like it's naturally coming from that source. And so to break down this lighting setup that I have, the main light that I'm using is just a Godox SL200, and I have that shining through a 6x6 diffusion. And the reason why I'm using that diffusion is because I'm trying to emulate the window light that's coming through. And this window is a big light source, right? It's very soft and it's very big. And so I want to match that as close as possible. So I set up my 6x6 diffusion and shine my light through that. Now, just like in the previous video, I had light spill going onto the fireplace and on the walls that I didn't want to use. I didn't want to happen. And so I set up my 5-in-1 diffusion again, and I blocked off that light using negative fill to absorb that light to prevent it from hitting the fireplace and spilling into the room that I didn't want to happen. The next light that I used was a practical light, and this lamp was actually already in place in the room, and I just wanted it to use it to add interest to the shot and have something in the background just to add a little bit of texture to the background and make it a little bit more interesting. And so the light that I'm using in that is actually just an incandescent bulb that I bought from the hardware store. Whenever you're trying to use practical lights, that is always going to be the best light source because it's not LED, it's not trying to make a light. It's actually a filament inside, and that filament's getting hot and pretty much producing light because it's so hot, and that actually renders a very accurate color in a light bulb. Where LED light, the cheaper ones, you get a green cast to them or a flickering effect or whatever it may be. They just don't render out as good as an incandescent bulb. And so I have this bulb on a dimmer, and I used the dimmer I bought from a hardware store as well. You can get them for about 10 bucks or so. And I dimmed the light down. Now the light in the background is much warmer than what it would have been because with incandescent bulbs, as you dim that light down, the warmer the light actually gets. And so I just have this on a dimmer. I probably had it at probably 30% around about in the background. The next light that I'm using, or the next source of lighting that I'm trying to use, is just a bounce board. Now this bounce board is actually a piece of insulation foam that you can buy from the hardware store as well. You can get a 4x8 feet sheet for like $8. I cut those in half, and so basically I have a 4x4 bounce board. I'm actually using it right here to bounce light into my face from here. And so the shadow side of my subject's face was just a little bit too dark for my taste and for the interview setting that we were going for. And so I brought in this bounce board, and I got the bounce board as close as I possibly could to the subject. And the reason for doing that is because the closer that you have a light source or a bounce, the softer the light is. the farther away that it is a little bit hard. And that goes for lights, that goes for bounces, anything like that. But also the bounce, the farther away that you have it, the less bounce that you actually get. And the closer you have it, the more bounce that you produce on a subject's face or whatever you're trying to light. So that's actually the only setup that I had. I used one light and a bounce board, and then a practical light with a lamp in the background. And yeah, that's it. It was a very simple, but a very pleasing look that you achieve from this simple lighting setup. Well, that wraps up everything for today, guys. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and everything that I use in my videos and in my career, it's in the description below. If you're still hanging around, in the comment section below, tell me if you were stuck on an island for the rest of your life and you could only take one piece of food, and that's what you had to eat for the rest of your life, what would that be? What would be your choice of food? Thank you, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.